1999, myself and 10 of my Force Reconnaissance Marines were practicing for our upcoming deployment to the Persian Gulf, when the helicopter that my teammates and I were riding on, rather than coming into a 60-foot hover over the ship we were practicing taking over, the helicopter that my teammates and I rode on that day came in too low and too fast and struck the side of the ship. When we take these ships down, we wear between 50 and 75 pounds of gear, weapons, equipment, and ammunition. My teammates and I carried M4 carbine long rifles, 45 caliber pistols, shotguns, blowtorches, demolition gear. Every single one of my Force Recon Marines and I wore lead bulletproof vests. The helicopter pilot recognized his error and pulled on the collective, which would typically give lift to a helicopter. But on that particular day, the back left wheel of the helicopter that my teammates and I were riding in was stuck in this thick metal netting that surrounds many of those cargo vessels, causing the helicopter that my teammates and I were riding in with its back left wheel still stuck, causing it to become vertical in the air, invert on itself, and then plunge into the Pacific Ocean. When it did so, all of my teammates and I were all immediately knocked unconscious. And we woke up sometime thereafter in a sinking helicopter, still wearing 50 to 75 pounds of gear, weapons, equipment, and ammunition, with no idea on how to exit from that sinking helicopter, and with no oxygen. When I awoke, I immediately started to pull and fight my way through the helicopter, looking for a way to egress from it before it would eventually settle in 1,400 feet of water. I'm Erik Kapitulik. I'm the president and founder of the program. The program is a team building and leadership development company that believes in personal development, leadership development, and team building through shared adversity. And that we only grow as individuals and as a team when we are outside of our comfort zone. This year, we'll work with over 200 collegiate athletic teams. Last year, 7 of those teams competed for or won national championships. Numerous others won a lot of games. A lot of games. And those teams that win lots of games, they share one characteristic. To win a lot of games, you need to have this one characteristic. And that one characteristic is called talent. Talent allows us to win games. It's my great privilege to be here today to speak with you, not about talent, nor about how we win games, but rather how we compete for championships. Talent wins games. That much better helps us compete for championships. I fought and I pulled my way through the helicopter as it sank, looking for a way to egress from it. And I was fortunate that I was able to find a way to do so. And then I started to swim. And only when I started to swim did I feel true fear. Fear that, as I talk about it now today to all of you, it makes me nervous right now thinking about that moment. Because see, we can't hold our breath indefinitely. We all have a natural gag reflex. Try to hold your breath, eventually your body gags and oxygen will go rushing into your lungs. Unless you're 200 meters below the ocean surface. Then when your body gags, salt water will go rushing in. And then because it does, then your body gags again and more salt water will go rushing in. That's called drowning. My teammates and I had been underneath the water for so long looking for a way to egress from that sinking helicopter that we were all drowning. Things were going black on us. The Pacific Ocean is already a dark body of water, and we were so deep in it by the time we got out of the helicopter. and with the engines, the blades had already shorn off, but the engines are still turning. So we're drowning in a black ocean, in bubbles. Cavitation surrounds us. And today, in this moment, I still remember as I started to swim, thinking to myself, I hope I'm swimming in the right direction. I hope I'm swimming in the right direction. Making things more challenging for me at the time was that when the helicopter hit the water, it had hit it with such violence that I had compound fractured my leg. So as I swam in a direction that I hoped was the surface, still wearing 50 to 75 pounds of gear, weapons, equipment, and ammunition while drowning, I did so and could only use my arms because I had a bone sticking out of my leg. Well, a few feet beneath the ocean surface, then I could see sunlight filtering down into the ocean. In a few moments after that, I was on the ocean surface. In a few moments after that, a safety boat picked me up and I survived that day. But unfortunately, on that particular day, 6 of my Force Recon Marines, 6 of my teammates, they didn't. Well, within 1 month's time, we had 6 new teammates join our team, and we had a successful deployment to the Persian Gulf. But while I was there, I decided that I would set up a college scholarship fund to give the financial opportunity for those children of my teammates the opportunity to go to college someday. So that's what I did. And then I had to figure out how I was going to raise money for that scholarship fund. And as Coach pointed out, I am a graduate of the United States Naval Academy. I'm a graduate with a 2.02 GPA. So, as I was figuring out what I was going to do to raise money for that college scholarship fund, the writing was fairly clear on the wall that it was not going to be through my participation in chemistry exams, electrical engineering exams, or any number of the other courses I took multiple times at the United States Naval Academy on my way to graduation. But the way that I decided that I would raise money for that scholarship fund would be through my participation in the world's longest endurance events, by climbing the world's tallest mountains, things that I already enjoyed doing, but now I figured I could do them for a bit more altruistic purposes. So from Kuwait City, Kuwait, I signed up for Ironman California. For those of you who don't know, that's a swim, a bike, and a run. It's a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, and then a marathon. One right after the other. No stopping, you hope. Well, we had a successful deployment to the Persian Gulf, and when we returned, I did compete at Ironman California. But 2 months before I did so, ESPN had contacted me and asked me if they could follow me through that race as a human interest story. Because just like all of us in here videotape many of the things that we're doing to look at our form and our technique, and that's how we improve both of those areas, well, we did the same thing in our community. But on that particular day, what we ended up videotaping was the actual helicopter crash that my teammates and I were involved in. Now it's over a year later, so all the major news networks had it. So ESPN asked me if they could follow me through that race, and they did. 2 months later, NBC Sports followed me through Ironman Hawaii, the World Championships on the Big Island of Hawaii. Now, since then, up till today, I've competed in and completed 8 Ironman triathlons. I've adventure raced from one side of the Kalahari Desert in South Africa to the other, from the Pacific Ocean across Costa Rica to the Caribbean, from one side of Alaska to the other. I've forgotten how many marathons I've run. I've climbed 5 of the 7 summits, the tallest peaks on each of the 7 continents. 2 years ago, I stood on the summit of Mount Everest for 6 minutes. As I said earlier, I'm now the president and founder of the program. People ask all the time, how do you do that? How do you do that? I don't do it. My teammates and I do. And I have been fortunate enough in my lifetime to have surrounded myself and continue to surround myself with individuals who've made a commitment not to rely just on their natural talent level, because they know that that natural talent level will help them help us win games. But I've been fortunate enough to surround myself with individuals who instead have made a commitment to getting that much better every single day. At the program, we believe that you get that much better by being good team leaders and by being good teammates and preparing yourself every single day to fill either role. You get that much better by being good team leaders and by being good teammates and preparing yourself every single day to fill either role. Now, how many people in here, by a show of hands, have ever been told by a coach at some point in your life, gotten the proverbial slap on the backside, hey, get out there and be a better leader. Hey, I need you to be a better leader. By a show of hands, how many people have ever been told that by a coach? Yep, I don't doubt it. Almost all of us. The issue that we see at the program, the issue that we see is telling somebody to be a better leader doesn't make somebody a better leader. We've got to tell them exactly what do good leaders do. What specifically are the standards that good leaders get held to? And before I move on, I just want to make sure that you understand our vernacular at the program. I just got done saying, what are the standards that good leaders get held to? We live in the greatest country on earth by a lot. But there's some things going on in our society that we need to stem the flow of, not add to. And one of the ways that we can do so is by recognizing that there is a difference between standards and goals. Now, we use those terms interchangeably throughout athletics, throughout society. Goals are what we want to do. Goals are what we want to do. Standards are who we are. Failure to reach a goal, reattack it tomorrow. Failure to reach a standard, standards have consequences. Standards have consequences. We now live in a society where there are no consequences. We just have goals. Not at the program. And leaders get held to two standards. Only two standards you get held to as a leader. Number one, mission accomplishment. Mission accomplishment. Did you or didn't you? Did your team or did your team not accomplish its mission this year? Number one. Number two, did you take care of your teammates? Did you take care of your teammates? Those are the only two standards that leaders get held to. Now, taking care of your teammates. Now, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It means picking them up when they're down. Maybe encouraging them to go harder. Maybe it means you take care of them by being a good listener. I don't disagree with any of those things, but we simplify it at the program. I'll reference the 2.02 GPA that I just talked about. I mean, we got to keep it simple here or I'll forget it. Taking care of your people means one thing. And this one thing that I'm going to share with you, make no mistake, I stole it from somebody else too. When I was a brand new second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, I had just graduated from the Naval Academy. I had just gone through 6 months of the basic school where all new Marine Corps officers must attend to find out what job they're going to get in the Marine Corps. And now I'm just almost at the end of infantry officers course. And 22 other infantry officers, brand new second lieutenants, the night before graduation, we're out in the woods, sitting in 2 feet of snow down in Virginia in 1995. And the Commandant of the Marine Corps came out to talk to all of us and built a fire. The first one we were allowed to have in 3 months. And we sat around the fire, and the Commandant was talking to us. And he said, "Here, men," he goes, "I'm going to tell each and every single one of you guys how to be a success in the Marine Corps. Whether you choose to spend 5 years in this organization or 35 like me, but realize that even if it's 5, realize what's going to make you a success here, it'll make you a success in whatever organization and on whatever battlefield you choose to go and fight on. Accomplish the mission, number 1. Number 2, take care of your teammates. And this is how you take care of them. Make every decision you ever make thinking about the warriors in your platoon, thinking about them first. Every decision you ever make, thinking about them first. And us, the 22 of us, brand new second lieutenant infantry officers, sitting there looking at the Commandant of the Marine Corps. And the Commandant looked up and looked at us and said, "I guarantee not all of you will do it." We'll work with over 200 college athletic teams this year. That's 8,000 to 10,000 different student athletes that we have the privilege to work with. And do you know when everybody makes every decision with their teammates' best interests at heart first? You know when? Because they do a lot of it. When you're up by 3 touchdowns, when you're up by 3 goals in a soccer match against a team who has no business being on the same field as you. When you're playing in a basketball game and you're up by 25, everybody's making every decision with their teammates' best interest at heart first then. We don't care about then. That's like talent. It'll help you win that game. Everybody is a hero when it's 70 degrees and sunny and there's a slight breeze blowing in off the coast. Everyone's a hero. We care about when it is hitting the fan. Will you make every single decision you ever make thinking about the warriors that are sitting to your left and to your right? Sitting about the warriors in your own platoons, thinking about them first, then. Good team leaders do. Good team leaders do. They accomplish the mission and they take care of their teammates. Taking care of your teammates means make every decision you ever make thinking about your warriors first. Now, good teammates do 2 things as well. But first, let me tell you, if we have the privilege, I'm going to help you cheat here a little bit. In case we ever do have the opportunity and the privilege to work with your team, I'm going to tell you what we don't ever want to hear again. Because we hear it across America, from Maine to Oregon to Southern California to Florida and everything in between. This is what we hear about all the time. This guy who gets as bigger, faster, stronger as he can in the off season. He gets as bigger, faster, stronger as he possibly can in the off season. He gives 100% every single day in practice. And he goes full speed every run he gets out on the hoop court, on the field hockey field. She gives 100% every pitch she throws in the softball pitch, on the soccer pitch. Everybody wants to talk about that guy, that girl, prepares as best as they possibly can, gets as bigger, faster, stronger as they possibly can, gives 100% every day in practice and goes full speed every run he or she has in the game. But you know, they're just kind of quiet. They lead by example. They lead by example. You're doing yourself and you're doing all of your student athletes a disservice by continuing to use that term. That term, leading by example, has been watered down to mean nothing anymore in college athletics. And by the way, in most of America as well. in most of America as well. Because here, let me reiterate these three things to you. Prepare as best you can, give 100% every day in practice, and go full speed every run you have out on the field. Do you know what that's called? Your job. That's called your job. I'm not sure since when has that become leading by example, but it has. It has. Our standards have fallen so low that, lo and behold, when we get an athlete who does that, we want to just put the term on that person. Yup, they're leading by example. Here, by a show of hands, again, tell me if any of you have ever been on a team where there's been at least one person on your team who's done those three things. They get as big or fast or strong as they can in the off season, they give 100% every day in practice, and they go full speed in a game. Raise your hand if you've ever been on a team that there's been at least one person on your team that does that. Okay, now keep them raised. Keep them raised for me. All right, now, leave your hand raised if every single person on the team did it too. Keep your hand raised if every single person did it too. Yep. Right. Exactly. If nobody's following you, it's not called leading. It's not called leading. So let's stop using the term. You're doing yourself and you're doing the student athlete a disservice by saying they're leading by example. Great teammates do two things. You don't lead by example, but you set the example. You set the example. Number one. Number two, great teammates demand and they help their teammates reach that same high standard. Great teammates set a high standard. Then they demand and they help all of their teammates reach that same high standard. Good friends you go to the movies with. Great teammates you go to battle with. And great teammates set a high standard and then they demand it out of you. Great teammates do that because they know that if they don't, the enemy will. The enemy will. But on Saturday afternoon, when the enemy's doing that, then it's too late. Then it's too late. Talent helps us win games. That much better helps us compete for championships. We get that much better by being good team leaders and good teammates. Good team leaders do two things. They accomplish the mission and they take care of their teammates. Taking care of your teammates means make every decision you ever make thinking about your warriors first. And good teammates do two things as well. First, they set a high example. Second, they demand and they help all of their teammates reach that same high standard. And we've got to prepare to be both. We have to prepare to be good team leaders. And we've got to prepare to be good teammates. We spend so much time, and rightfully so, by the way, rightfully so, in developing our student athletes physically. We spend so much time helping to develop the football skills of our student athletes. And the reason why we do that, because all of us know that if we were just to sit in a weight room and teach a guy how to bench, hey, well, this is the move that you want to show here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to talk to you about how to do it. Or you did that with a football skill, telling a guy how to come out of his stance. A basketball skill, showing him proper shooting form. Sit here and here. Just tell a guy how to shoot a free throw. What you're doing is you're teaching him how to shoot a free throw. You're not helping develop them. Generally speaking, what we see across America is that coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, sport coaches across America, they do a good job of teaching young men, young women, how to be better leaders, how to be better teammates. We call guys in, women in, we tell them to sit down in front of us. Look, this is what I need you to do to be a better team leader. This is what I need you to do, a better teammate. Again, it's just like in the weight room or out on whatever field you all coach those teams on. Teaching somebody what to do is different than developing them. That's different than developing them. We can't, by and large, just teach people how to be better team leaders and expecting them to be such, but we do. We do. We have to develop it. Sure, you know what happens? On all of your teams, you know what happens? Once every 10 years on your team, you happen to have Colin Powell join your team. Don't do anything with Colin Powell. He shows up as a freshman. He or she, 4 years later, they're a great leader. 4 years later, great leader. Yeah, but most of the time you end up with a lot of Erik Kapituliks. In the Erik Kapituliks of the world, we need to be developed physically. As basketball players, as football players, as field hockey athletes. But we need our leadership to be developed as well. We have to prepare for that moment when we're going to be called upon to show our leadership. And prepare we must. And the way that we prepare to be good team leaders, and the way that we prepare to be good teammates, is by making a commitment to 3 core principles. Number 1, we're physically and mentally tough. We're physically and mentally tough. I know this comes as no surprise to all of you in here, but realize many of the things that we read about now is talking about mental toughness. Mental toughness this, mental toughness that. It's now become physical toughness or mental toughness. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. It's the wrong conjunction. It's not physical or mentally tough. It's physical and mental toughness. Good team leaders and good teammates are physically and mentally tough. We've got to make a commitment to developing both. Physical toughness, do 10 push-ups today, do 11 tomorrow. You're more physically tough tomorrow than you are today. Mental toughness, much more challenging, much more challenging. We make mental mistakes. We make mental mistakes one of 3 times. Well, one of 4, actually. We make mental mistakes one of 4 times. When do we make mental mistakes? What do you think? Any ideas? When do we make mental mistakes? I'm sorry, what was that, Coach? Okay, number 1, when you're tired. Yep, that's one time we make mental mistakes. What else? I'm sorry? Under pressure, right? When you're nervous, okay? The third is actually pretty easy. What's the third time you make mental mistakes? And you've seen it in some of your athletes, by the way. Yep, if you're stupid. Yep, if you're stupid. Yep. Because very rarely, right, Coach, I mean, you know this, right? Oh, they know what to do, right? I mean, they've been taught what to do, right? Now, just being taught what, they may not do it, right? I mean, and make no mistake, right? Some guys don't do it because, yeah, they're just not smart enough. You make mental mistakes one of 4 times. If you're not, when you become physically tired, when you become nervous, if you're dumb, or, God forbid, the 4th time, any combination of the first 3, then we've got some real issues here. But you make mental mistakes when you become physically tired. So the first way that we help develop somebody's mental toughness is make them as absolutely physically tough as you possibly can. I know I'm preaching to the choir here about that. That's the first way you make people more mentally tough. Make them as physically tough as they possibly can be. So that when they tire, if they tire, with 2 minutes to go in the second half of a soccer match, of a field hockey match, 2 minutes to go in the 4th quarter of a football game, in the second half of a men's basketball game, women's basketball game, if that's when they tire, but they've put so much physical pressure against the teams they're competing against, that those teams became physically tired with even 4 minutes to go, you're going to win almost 100% of those games. Because very few individuals and almost no teams can stay mentally dialed in once they become physically tired. That's the first way we help develop mental toughness. The second is how do we handle that nervousness issue? By becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable, because everything in our life is habit forming, and I'll prove it to you. If you could, please sit up in your chairs for me. Just sit up in your chairs. You can put your pens down for now. By the way, just sit up straight in your chairs. All right, now, put your hands on your knees for me. All right, now cross your arms. Like, the way we fold our arms. Go ahead, cross your arms. You can go ahead and do it. This isn't the Simon Says is not what we're playing here. Go. All right, now put your hands on your knees again for me. All right, now cross your arms again. All right, one more time. Put your hands on your knees for me. All right, one last time. Cross your arms and hold it there. All right, now switch it. Make the top hand the bottom hand and the bottom hand the top hand. Go ahead, switch the way you cross your arms. Go ahead and do it. All right, now, one of two things, right? One, all of you also graduated with 2.02 GPAs from college, just like me. Or two, we're also all alike, which is all of us have been folding our arms exactly the same way, right over left or left over right, since we've been this tall. And now somebody says, here, just switch the way you cross your arms. And for half of us in here, we've got to look down to even see which is top and which is bottom to even get it right. And then once we do it, we're still jammed up with it as to what do I do with this hand? You can uncross your arms. You can uncross your arms. Mental toughness is a habit. It's a habit. And everything we do in our life is habit forming. We have to become comfortable being uncomfortable. But we have to prepare for that. We have to train for that. We have to make it a habit to be uncomfortable every single day. Every single day, because until you become uncomfortable, you have not started working on your mental toughness. I'll give you one brief suggestion. One brief suggestion. And for some of the teams that we work with that are here today, I know that for many of you, you may already do this, but we do work with a number of teams, and maybe something that you might suggest to some of your coaches is when you have somebody lined up and you tell somebody, look, we're going to do 21 10s today. You might be helping develop their physical toughness, but you just took any development of their mental toughness right off the table. Because now I know what to expect. You're not developing my mental toughness. I remember, I mean, it hasn't, it's been more years now than I like to admit, but it hasn't been so long that I don't remember that when we got to that point in practice where we had to do our conditioning, many times it was get lined up. Here, I'm going to blow the whistle. Well, coach, how many are we going to do? Yeah, I'm going to blow the whistle. Get lined up. Now it's, okay, well, here, let's get our dynamic warm-up in. Now we're going to do 21 10s. Then after that, this is what we're going to do. And this is how much time you all have to do it on. And we wonder why we're not developing individuals' mental toughness. Yes. Yes. In a controlled environment, you can give people all the information. You can. And they'll perform. The problem is that eventually we live and die not in controlled environments, but in uncontrolled environments where there's a bad guy out there who wants to kill me. In our former line of work, my teammates and I former line of work, legitimately. In our line of work, figuratively. No, they just want to beat us. And they're not going to give us all the information. But we've got to train like that. You cannot expect an athlete to do something in an uncontrolled environment if we haven't developed them in a controlled environment. That includes our physical toughness, and it includes our mental toughness too. Number one, we're physically and mentally tough. Number two, we don't make excuses and we don't let other people make excuses for us. We don't make excuses, and we don't let other people make excuses for us. But we do all the time. And by the way, as you see, I'm not using the pronoun you. I'm using the pronoun we. We do it. That video that you watched was made by NBC Sports about my racing at Ironman Hawaii. Realize that was an incredible amount of money that must have been spent to be able to find that video that made it look like I was actually racing that day. On that particular day, it was the worst weather conditions on the Big Island that they've had at that point up to 25 years of the Ironman. There were 50-mile-per-hour gusts blowing people off their bikes. The 1,500 best Ironman triathletes in the world compete at the World Championships. Over 350 of them, at some point before the run started, said, "Not me, not today. That's enough." If you did start the run, if you did start the marathon on that particular day, you would enter the lava fields where it got to 106 degrees. In that video, that may have been the only 45 seconds that I was actually running that day. I was just out there surviving it. And while I was surviving it, while I was getting my backside kicked, do you know what I was saying? I knew I shouldn't have worn this hat. I knew I should have worn my other hat. Flipping shoelaces. These are the heavy shoelaces that I have. I know I could have gone with the other ones. The quick tie shoelaces would have been so much better. Look, the difference between a 3-hour marathon and a 3-hour and 1 marathon may have been the hat I was wearing. The difference between a 3-hour marathon and a 5-hour and 15 marathon had nothing to do with the hat I was wearing. But we all do it. We have 1,000 excuses why we don't reach our goals in life. 1,000 excuses why we don't reach our goals in life. There's one reason and one reason only. Because I failed. Because I failed to prepare properly. That's it. Look, I appreciate the fact that about 15% of your excuses are like 15% of my excuses. They're valid. They're valid. Here's the thing about it. Refer back to what standard you get held to as a leader. Refer back to the first standard that you get held to as a leader. Did you and did your team accomplish the mission? 15% of all excuses are valid. 100% of them nobody gives a damn about. If you don't want your athletes to use them, we can't use them either. Because a leader never asks their teammates to do something they're not willing to do themselves. A leader never asks his team, her team, to do something they're not willing to do themselves. We don't let other people make them, and we don't make them ourselves. 1,000 excuses for why we don't reach our goals in life. There's one reason and one reason only, because I failed to prepare properly. And the importance of that, to just re-highlight it to all of you, is this. Look, in games, the referee isn't going to always make the right call. Collegiate sports are violent. People get injured. It always seems like it's the best player too. That's occurred for the last 100 years, and it's going to occur for the next 100 years. Don't allow yourselves first, and then make darn sure that you don't allow your athletes either, even for 1 minute, to talk about bad call by the referee. Oh, damn, Jimmy's hurt. Oh, yeah, well, hey, is he going to get better for Saturday's game? I mean, don't do it to yourself, and don't let your athletes do it either. The reason why is knowing this in personal experiences, knowing this from personal experiences. Fear is contagious. Fear is contagious. I also know this from personal experience. So is enthusiasm. So is enthusiasm. We're physically and mentally tough, number one. We don't make excuses, and we don't let other people make excuses for us. And third and most importantly, we work hard. We work hard. But at the program, we define what hard work is. We define what hard work is. Because generally speaking, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between all of you and your student athletes, a disconnect between us and the student athletes that we're privileged enough to work with. There's a disconnect. See, everybody says, oh, hey, we work hard. We work hard. And there's a reason why 100% or darn near 100% of athletes are standing out there on the field somewhere, leaning up against their softball bat, their baseball bat, lacrosse stick, standing out there fixing their gloves. Everybody's standing out there, every athlete's standing out there going, I work pretty hard. I work pretty hard. And why every coach in America is standing on the sideline going, that son of a does not work hard. That guy does not work hard. And there's a reason why. Because how you define hard work and how they define hard work is very different. Is very different. Now, yes, some guys are just foolish. Yeah, sure. They know they're not doing it. But there's plenty of guys out there, plenty of women out there, what their standard of hard work is different than yours. That's why we define it for what it means to us at the program. And the way we define what hard work is, let me first tell you what hard work isn't. I'm going to first tell you what hard work isn't. I'll use the example when we work with the student athletes that we have the privilege to work with, that all of you work with. Hard work is not what they're doing between 3:30 and 6:30 every afternoon when they go out onto the field. Hard work is not what they're doing between 5:30 and 6:30 in the morning when they enter your weight room, when they enter your strength and conditioning facility. That is not hard work. But you see, warriors, all of us in here know hard work isn't done on an aggregate basis. It's not, do I work hard? It's no. Am I outworking the son of a who's going to come in here and thinks he's going to run over me this weekend? Not am I working hard, but am I working harder than her who thinks she's going to take me every single time to the goal? Am I outworking her? On some other campus? Well, look, between 3:30 and 6:30 every afternoon, between 5:30 in the morning and 6:30 in the morning, when they're in the strength and conditioning facilities that you all run, guess what? Those other athletes, they're not out sipping mimosas. They don't just go hang out. No, they're working hard too during that time. And hard work is done on an aggregate basis. I'm sorry, hard work is not done on an aggregate basis. It's done on a relative basis. And that's why we define it. It's not what you do between 5:30 and 6:30 every morning. It's not what you're doing between 3:30 and 6:30 every afternoon. What hard work is one more. That's what hard work is. One more. And we have to figure out what our one more is as an individual and as a team and make a commitment to doing it each and every single day. Each and every single day. And let me suggest this to you. You yourselves, your staff members sitting to your left and to your right, the athletes that you all work with, we're all different. We're all different. What some people can do for their one more, it's different than what their teammates can do. It's why you all work with some student athletes whose one more is spending 30 minutes after practice every single day working on an out route, working on this pass. They can spend 30 minutes every day. You've got some athletes who can make a commitment to spending 30 minutes in the weight room every single day, getting that much better, doing their one more. You do have athletes who are able, willing and able to commit to it. Others, Have them just commit to doing 3 more minutes every day at the end of practice. Have them commit to doing just 1 more set on one particular exercise in your facilities. And when those guys do actually, when those women do actually do just that 1 more set, when those athletes do just spend 3 minutes after practice every day working on their shot, their throw, their pitch, for 3 minutes, the reason why all of us have to make sure that we recognize that is because it's a big deal. So you know why? Because that idea of doing 1 more is not rocket science. There's not a salesman in America that doesn't know that at 5 o'clock at night, for him to be successful, for her to be successful, all they have to do is make 3 more sales calls every single night, though. They got to do it every single night. Why? Because everything we do in our life is habit forming. And if you can't do it every day, don't bother doing it once. So just commit, not to 30 minutes like that guy. Commit just to 3 minutes. Commit to just making 3 more sales calls every single day at 5 o'clock. And when you have an athlete who does do 3 more sales calls in your companies, the reason why after they get done doing those 3 sales calls, we want to recognize it in front of their teammates, is because everybody in America knows it. And you know what happens at 5 o'clock? Salespeople grab their coat and they walk out the door. And they know it. And it's not because of a lack of talent. It's because of a lack of discipline. A lack of discipline. A failure to be able to accurately set what my 1 more is, and then committing to make it a habit every single day. Realize that you have different athletes on your teams. Ensure that their 1 more is adjusted appropriately. Talent wins games. That much better helps us compete for championships. I know, and I'm glad that none of you in here, none of you, will ever actually be wearing 50 to 75 pounds of gear, weapons, equipment, and ammunition in the back of a sinking helicopter with no idea on how to exit from it and with no oxygen, swimming in a direction that you hope is the surface with bones sticking out of your leg. I know none of us, none of you, will ever actually be in that position. And thank God you won't. But I do know, and all of us know, that at some point in our life, we're not actually going to be in the back of that sinking helicopter. But we all know that at some point in our lives, we're going to feel like we are. We're going to feel like we are. And if we've made a commitment, and we've been fortunate enough to have teammates who have made a commitment not to rely just on their natural talent level, but rather to getting that much better, then yes, that much better, it will help us compete for championships. It will. But most importantly, that much better will ensure that you swim to the surface too. Whether you do so or not has nothing to do with how much talent you all have. All it has to do with is the choice you make tomorrow morning when you wake up. All it has to do with is the choice that the staffs and the student athletes that you're privileged enough to work with make tomorrow morning when they wake up. For myself and all of my teammates at the program, we hope you make the right choice. Thank you for having me here today. Thanks. Thanks. That's good. Yep. Thanks. That's good. Thanks. We've got 10 minutes here to answer any questions. If people have any questions, happy to stay here for can you take a couple questions? If any of you are interested in talking more about your teams and some of the challenges that you face in your own jobs right now, my teammates, Jake McDonald. Jake, can you stand up for me, please? Jake McDonald, who's the program's director of operations, and MC Coughlin. MC, who's one of our lead instructors at the program. If you have any questions from a team leadership, a teammate perspective that you'd like to ask any one of us, we'll be around. MC and Mac will be around until tomorrow afternoon. I'm actually catching a flight to Phoenix here tonight, but we'll be around until then to answer any questions about your specific teams. We look forward to doing so. If you want more information about the program or any of our team building or leadership development services, we've got some papers and some pens here so you can write your name and email down to it. Remember, neatness counts. Neatness counts. Or just leave your business card. We'd love the opportunity to work with you all. Thank you very much.